Hey Craig, I've got another question for you on non-dual awakening.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to speak with you.
Awesome. So in many non-dual teachings that I've heard, desire is the devil. Uh, you want to get rid of desire. Hope is silly, to want something in the future. Everything's here now, now, now. There was the book The Secret that came out about manifesting all this stuff, which I knew I didn't want anyways, but squashing desire and still desiring things is very confusing in the non-dual teaching. So if you could clarify some of that.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about this. It's a really common question. And so a lot of the confusion happens is because of old world spirituality that didn't have an evolutionary context. And so in the age of the Buddha, life was really tough. Sometimes we'd only live till we were 30 years old. And so most people wanted to do, anything they could, just to get out of this world, to get out of this realm. And so there was this sense of, very dualistic experience of God. There's earth, which is like hell, and the Buddha's first teaching is life is suffering. Then there was this idea, I want to get to nirvana. The Christians, I want to get to heaven. I want to get, up and out of this world. But, in 2,000 years ago, there wasn't a real clear understanding of evolution. Now, if we look at what evolution is, of course, evolution being one of the qualities of God, another quality being vast, spacious emptiness. So the Buddhists wanted to get to vast, spacious emptiness. They weren't concerned about evolution. In the world of yoga, they call this Shiva and Shakti. Shiva, vast, spacious emptiness, Shakti, the manifest world, what God, it's the female giving birth into form. So God obviously made a universe, obviously made us, made all this life. That came out of desire. That came out of evolution. And so if we're going to try to have a spiritual path that denies desire, denies evolution, we're going to find ourselves, fighting an uphill battle. We may be able to meditate our way into some plane that seems like nirvana, that seems like cessation. But what we'll find is we will never fully get there. We'll never fully embody it. Because this world is made out of desire. Everything you see is a product of desire. Us, we are a product of desire. God's desire, our parents' desire, the millions of people before us, their desire. And so desire is not a bad thing. Desire is a movement of life. Now there are higher desires and lower desires. And so to honor the Buddha a little bit here, if we feel into our chakra centers and if we connect with a real root level animal desire, say in the pelvis, we could get ourselves in a lot of trouble, chasing beautiful women, chasing beautiful men. If we move up to the second chakra and we're chasing after beautiful sports cars or, big, beautiful houses and mansions, yeah, that's a delusion that will lead to pain and suffering. Absolutely. But even if you feel into those lower desires too, those lower chakra centers, and you begin to open them a little bit and say, how could this be God too? Is it that all desire is bad? Is being in relationship bad? Is that wrong? Is connecting and coming together in sexual union with someone you deeply love, is that wrong? Of course not. Of course it's not wrong. Why would it be possible? Why would it be, the primary force of procreation if it was some terrible thing? That's a movement of God's intelligence. And we all know this when we come into our hearts, when we're in love with another, we want to connect fully with another. It's a very high and powerful desire. But a lower version of that is, just chasing people at a nightclub or whatever and say, I want to sleep with that person. Well, that's an animal desire. And so if we look at everything from an evolutionary context, we see that there's lower desires and higher desires. So the higher desire that's what I call a desire that's in alignment with our heart. Oftentimes a spiritual term for that is called aspiration. And all of us have choices throughout our life. We can look into our consciousness from a place of mindfulness. When we see a desire come forward, what is that? Where does that desire come from? Higher or lower? Does it come from this low place within me, like a teenage boy or teenage girl place? Does it come from a place that's, reflective of some wound? If I just had this person to fill this wound, to fill this hole within my consciousness, then I would feel better. Well, a higher desire than that is, I notice there's a wound here. I feel the pain. I meet it with love. I'm willing to work out that pain. I'm willing to heal that. See, that's a movement of the spiritual path. One of the great desires on the spiritual path is to heal, to transform, to transmute, to grow into, to evolve into something greater, something more profound, something more incredible. That is the path. The path is evolution, and all of those are desires. So the great question is, well, where are you connecting? Where are you connecting to with your desires? Are you connecting to human or animal desires within your consciousness? And if that's the case, yes, the Buddha was right. Those will lead to suffering. But if you're connecting to higher desires, you may be challenged by life. You will be challenged, because anything new that comes into this world will be challenged. But it'll be a movement forward, a movement of God's grace, a movement of God's intelligence. And so the great question is can we listen to the true desires, the higher desires, the evolutionary impulse of the universe as she's giving birth in the form of you and I? If any of us ever stop and just take a look at what are my thoughts? Where did they come from? What is a thought? A thought is literally a spark of God's intelligence. And there's higher sparks and lower sparks. Just like we were speaking about before, we can have sparks of intelligence that are just hormones. There's also sparks of intelligence that create, beautiful temples, beautiful parks, that create, babies or a beautiful home to live in with your family. Create wonderful music and works of art. All of this is God's desire, being born into an individual and then expressing itself through us. And as we really open to this mind, this realm of manifestation that's happening in us and as us, we become united with God. We realize that God's intelligence is moving through your mind, your heart, your body. You begin to see that thought is not bad, but that thought is God herself. God herself moving through you and I, right here, right now. Then we're not fighting with thought. It's not this obstacle to enlightenment. We see that it's something quite magical, quite incredible. And so I know I talked for a while there, but I hope that was helpful and it made sense. And did you have any other thoughts or things you wanted to ask about what I said?
That really helped. That really helped answer my question on numerous levels. It sounds like a maturing of desires, like through the chakra system and representing kind of the level of maturity that the same desire can come from. And yeah, that was very, very helpful, Craig. I really thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're saying is true, is that that's what the spiritual path is about, is it's us maturing out of our animal nature into our human nature, and then maturing out of our human nature and into our divine nature. And that's, that's what this big mess is called life is, we are evolutionary beings. We're evolving out of the animal into the human, evolving out of the human into the divine. And if any of you look, if we all look at our thoughts throughout the day, we'll see there's all levels of creation within us happening simultaneously. And the greatest beings on the planet are the ones who choose to live from the heart, who choose to live in alignment with divine intelligence, who choose to make decisions that are more compassionate, more kind, more loving for themselves and this planet and others. And so that's the great movement, is this maturation out of animal nature and into divine nature. And this is God's path. It's happening with you and I. So thank you. That was a beautiful question.
Thank you. Yes, it was helpful to know I don't have to deny desire, which is futile. Anyways.
Yeah, and I mean, the big thing is about denying desire. When you deny desire, you fight with it. It will revolt. But when you go into the root of the desire and you meet it with love and you listen to the truth within it and then begin to walk in that direction, then you actually grow, you actually evolve. You actually evolve, and it's a beautiful thing. And so no, desire is not bad. Desire is a product of God. But as we're connecting with God, are we connecting with God on the level of animal or God on the level of divine being, of actually being a light worker here on the planet Earth, actually being at the evolving edge, at the highest stage of evolution? And the higher you choose, to meet life at, like the higher stage of development, there will be less suffering. Less suffering. And that's one of the things that the Buddha pointed out, is if you meet desire just on a core animal level, you will suffer and it will be painful. And we see this, if you just go to the mall and you see, teenage boys chasing teenage girls, you see a lot of suffering there, a lot of broken hearts, a lot of confusion, a lot of pain. But as we grow and mature out of that, fall on our face a couple of times and ask, what is it I truly want? Well, I want someone who will see me, who will love me, who will support me. And I want to share a life, a beautiful life, with someone who I see, who I love, and who I support. That's a step forward. That's a movement of desire, but it's a huge step forward. And then if we turn this love affair, if we, look up towards God and you look at your relationship with God and say, what kind of relationship do I want to have with God? How about one where we feel united, where there's no wall, no division between us and life, where God is moving through us and making love through us literally with life, just as we're breathing in and breathing out. That in every moment is a moment of union, of bliss, of truth. And life can be this way. And this is, what I call the ultimate desire, to give oneself fully to God, to let go fully into God, not only for our benefit, but for the benefit of all creation, because we see that we and God, we and life are one. As I step forward, all of life steps forward. And so yes, desire is nothing more than the movement of evolution here in form. So again, thank you. That's a beautiful question.